Bonjour tout le monde. Hi everyone. I am thrilled to host this info session this morning. Just a few words about myself, if you don't know me. I am the executive director of the Alliance Française de Seattle, and today here I have my colleague Serena Chou, who is also the events coordinator, and she will be managing the questions in the chat. And I have the pleasure to introduce to you Frédéric Latty, who is the school teaching director of the l'Institut de Français in Villefranche-sur-Mer. So he will talk about this wonderful program, the great location, and what distinguishes their methodology from other methodologies that you might have been familiar with from your studies. Okay, just a few words about the Alliance Française, because I saw that some of you are not do not come from our network, which is great. That means that we did great outreach. We are the largest Alliance Française on the West Coast. And fourth in the country. We give French classes for all. We organize cultural programs, and we have a great community of members and just francophiles in the Seattle region, but and state as well. So if you want to learn more about us, Serena will put the link in the chat if you haven't already explored what programs we might be able to offer you. So without further ado, just a few reminders of the structure of the program. So Frédéric will present the program in Villefranche-sur-Mer, and then we will have time for questions. And also, I'm happy to say that two of our students, Clathel and Nirmala, will have a few words to say about their own experience in Villefranche-sur-Mer at l'Institut de Français. I also had we discussed before the meeting, I had the pleasure to go there to visit the l'Institut in April. Here you see me with Frédéric and Deborah,
Deborah.
who is the director of the l'Institut. And honestly, I was mesmerized. You can see the breathtaking views, the classrooms. So it's in a beautiful villa. The views are amazing, and the classrooms are very small, very intimate. Frédéric was so welcoming and nice, and he introduced me to all the students, and I was amazed to see about 5 students from Seattle. So it's there that I was able to run into Nirmala, who was taking classes, and she will talk about her great experience there. Yeah, what can I say? I wish I had this experience when I learned French, so if I were to go back in time, I would definitely do a program there. And yeah, and I think Linda Witt, she's a board officer with in our the board of the Alliance Française de Seattle. She started this wonderful relationship, so she is present here. She will be able to add a few details about her own experience. So, okay, Frédéric, euh,
Ok.
à toi, à vous.
Alors, bonjour à tous. Je suis Frédéric Latty. Hi, everyone. My name is Frédéric Latty, and I'm not new with the school because I've been there for 37 years. So this is a place that I, grew up with, and I'm going to start my little presentation with a short movie, and what you're about to see is the reality. It's not a modified version of the reality. You will see the institute itself, the school, the building. It's a beautiful Provençal villa from the 1920s. And we have beautiful terrace gardens overlooking the Bay of Villefranche and Cap Ferrat. There are worse places in the world to be, really. Let me start with this 1 minute movie.
Welcome to the Institut de Français, the world-renowned French language school set in a luxurious Provençal villa on the French Riviera. Enter the private world of professional adults who wish to learn French quickly and effectively in a stunning environment overlooking one of the nicest bays of the French Mediterranean. A unique concept which combines the most effective audiovisual methods, language lab, practice sessions and systematic classroom work. Small groups of 6 to 10 students. Make your dream to speak French now come true.
Okay. This is our school. This is Villefranche-sur-Mer. Villefranche is right in the near vicinity of Nice. We are literally next door, but it's still a little bit out of the way, out of the hustle bustle, even in the summertime. It gets busy, but it's not Nice, it's not Monaco, it's not Cannes. It's a little, I would say village, but small town would be perhaps more accurate because there's a life in that village. There are schools, there are people who live there, who work, etc., etc. So it's directly after Nice and in the direction of Monte Carlo, Monaco, and Menton, and then Italy, of course. So our school offers an intensive total immersion language program for adults. And that's one of the key points of that program because you have no risk to be mixed with kids or teenagers. They are only adults, and that makes a whole difference. And the course typically lasts for 2 to 4 weeks. It was designed originally for 4 weeks. So we do 2 or 3, but the program was designed for 4 weeks, and with classes held for, open your ears, 8.5 hours per day. And it's 5 days a week. The method, as indicated in the short movie, is designed to develop spoken French, fluency. Well, although I don't like that word because fluency, it's something that you acquire after years and years and years of perhaps social exposure or professional exposure. Fluency or comfort or ease quickly through a combination of audiovisual lessons, language lab, various activities, and group discussions. So 3 things. We call it a total immersion because from the minute the students arrive in the morning until they leave, unfortunately, we have no way to control what they're doing in the evening. But we have that strict rule that we enforce. No other language than French is allowed. And this French-only environment, of course, extends to classes, meals, on-site activities, and that forces a sort of rapid acquisition of the language, and also, I would say, an instinctive grasp of the language. Because when you're having lunch, when you're having breakfast with the teachers and staff, you learn things that no one can teach you in a classroom context. So that's the first key point, total immersion. And we really mean total immersion. First of all, because it's 8.5 hours per day, and because it includes breakfast, lunch. Unfortunately, we have a very, very good chef. Well, just look at me and you understand. And meals are 1 hour. There's always a teacher sitting with you and you have to converse. So you see, there is this balance between the classroom work or the lab work, which is very systematic and based on acquiring the conversational skills through systematic exercises. But then this is bridged over to reality by those breakfast and meal sessions and also other activities that we organize. There is, for instance, that's Villefranche. There is, for instance, 2 or 3 cinema showings per session, and it's all in French with a teacher who interrupts the film and explains what's going on with interaction. So second keyword, total immersion first. Second is, of course, spoken French, and spoken French. To the point that there's hardly any written material during the day. You have homework for about 30 to 35 minutes every evening, perhaps as a way to recap by yourself. We absolutely need, when it comes to language learning, you need to get rid of the clutch that are the written materials. Otherwise, never you may learn the language and know the verbs and know the subjunctive and know how to conjugate those verbs but when it comes to speaking, you have no clutch. So, at some point you have to give it a go and there's if you look our website, there's one article called Back to the Boot Camp. It's a boot camp a little bit because we ask students not to take too many notes, not to write too much. So it's a little different from any other programs perhaps that you may have visited. The third point is that we also, of course, offer accommodation. No accommodation is on or are on the school premises. That's only the school, what you see. On the left-hand side of the screen, you have the dining room, which is a beautiful extension of the building, hidden in the bougainvillea and the trees. So the accommodation are proposed by the school. You can, of course, go your own way, and the accommodation, our criteria are or is within walking distance of the school. That's the main thing. Of course, now you're going to tell me, 1 hour could be a walking distance. It's not 1 hour at all. It's a maximum, I would say, 12, 15 minutes from the school walking. So that really you don't need a car. You don't need to bother to, wonder how I'm going to get there, when I might, for the school life. No need at all of a car. You can walk everywhere. You can walk to the village, to the supermarkets. There are ATMs everywhere. You're close to the big pharmacy on the main road, etc., etc. You don't need, you can just spend 4 weeks if you wish without leaving Villefranche. And some of our returning students who account for 25% each session. They tell us, I'm going to stay in Villefranche and, not bother going out and so on. But if you wish, Nice is within 10 minutes, and Monaco is within 20 minutes. Menton is 30 minutes, Italy is 35 minutes. So it's very, convenient. And believe it or not, the public transportation on the French Riviera is excellent, cheap and excellent. You can go everywhere by bus or on the bus or on the train. Italy particularly is very convenient on the train. Um, and the fourth point, of course, is what I mentioned briefly to begin with, the fact that it is a sort of targeted audience. We have, of course, people from all walks of life and plenty of different nationalities from all over the world, but they share the common goal of wishing to learn French with a peaceful environment of people in their age group, of professional people, of people who are motivated and wish to learn French effectively, quickly, perhaps, but effectively to be concentrated. They're focused. We don't have to, tell the students off and you didn't do your homework. Why is that? No, never happens with us. Everybody does their homework, and it's really a nice crowd. We have it depends on the season, but in the summer times, which continues for October, our next session will be next week, and we have a full house. And during those sessions, we have more professional people. We have a partnership, a long-established partnership with the World Bank and governments. We have the Australian governments, the New Zealand governments, the Japanese governments, the Norwegian governments. They send their staff. So, this is the kind of people that you may just see at the Institute, but also plenty of others people. I insist on that point. They want to have the experience of being able to speak and perhaps for once convert what they know theoretically, what they've learned theoretically over the years, lists of verbs and so on and so forth, convert that in the spoken language. So that's, we have 8 different levels. Those levels are assessed by first a pre-assessment online test, but it's just an online test, and it gives us an idea. But on the first Monday when the students arrive, they arrive every 4 weeks. We have a new session starting. If you do 2 or 3, you have to start at the beginning of any 4-week session. And on that first Monday, we have 2.5-hour test to evaluate your comprehension skills, both oral and written, your expression skills, both oral and written, and we have plenty of graphs and 8 different levels from total beginners to advanced students, and 10 maximum per class. That's the main ideas of our program, and a good chef.
Fantastic. It wouldn't be a great program without good food as well. Thank you so much, Frédéric, for sharing a little bit about the approach from the Institute. With us today, we also have 2 students who have taken classes there, who are able to share a bit about their experiences. Claythel is a longtime AF Seattle student, as well as an Institut de Français student. So Claythel, would you like to say a few words about your experience at the Institut de Français?
Certainly. My name is Claythel Goodwin. Bonjour, Frédéric.
Bonjour, Claythel. Bonjour, Mimi.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I can substantiate everything Frédéric said. I've personally been to the Institute 3 times. The first time because I wanted to learn to speak French, and the second and the third time was because I had such a fabulous time the first time and I wanted to go back. And Frédéric was one of my teachers. I cannot stress enough what my experience at the Institut de Français à Villefranche means to me personally, because it literally changed my life. I had had the lifelong dream of always wanting to speak French. I had studied French, like many of you, I'm sure, in high school and university. I could recite grammar rules, and I knew lots of vocabulary, and I could conjugate verbs from morning till night, but I could not speak French. And I desperately wanted to do that. And I didn't say it out loud to anybody because it was my own private dream. But my husband knew. And my husband, when he found out about l'Institut de Français à Villefranche, he said, this is exactly what you need. And he sent me and came with me. He didn't go to school with me, but he stayed in Villefranche at an apartment we had rented. Villefranche is a delightful village that, or small town by French standards, maybe not by West Coast standards, but in any case, Villefranche is charming, but the Institut is magnificent. The villa is lovely. The facilities are wonderful. The gardens are glorious, but the Institut and its method is 100% effective, because by the time I left, after 4 weeks, I could speak French with confidence and with fluidity. And no, I can't speak French fluently because I don't live in France. I live in the States. So I don't have the chance to become fluent, but I can speak with fluidity. And I owe that 100% to the Institut de Français. When I arrived there, my attitude was, these are the experts and I'm going to place myself in their hands and I'm going to do everything they tell me to do and I'm going to give it my very best effort. And yes, it's 8.5 hours a day, 5 days a week, and it's very intense. It doesn't feel tense in the moment because you're having a good time. You're with charming, interesting people, and you're all working hard to do what you want to do. But you're also having fun because it feels good to learn. It feels good to do what they ask you to do. And we've all been to school and been intimidated to speak or to try or to make mistakes, but never at the Institut de Français. There is something that happens the moment you cross the threshold at the Institut de Français, French becomes who you are, and you do exactly as they tell you to do, and they make it easy because they're warm and they're welcoming and they're supportive and they're helpful, because they're grateful that you're there and they understand the feelings that you're having of having been intimidated in your life or feeling intimidated about, oh my God, I can't go to France and make mistakes. Yes, you can. and certainly at the Institut, because they treat you with such kindness. I would also say that the camaraderie that exists between the students in your group, because you spend 8.5 hours with these people. I was in a group of 6 to 10 people all 3 times. And because over time, you develop friendships with these people because you're living with them all day long. You eat breakfast with them because you choose to, and you gravitate toward each other at lunch because you choose to. That's your circle. And I had the pleasure of meeting fascinating, interesting, professional people who were there for all the same reason, the intense desire to want to learn to speak French. And I can tell you that for me it happened. and it was magnificent. And I remember the day it happened. I was walking down the sidewalk in Villefranche, and a Frenchman walked by, a French woman walked by, and she was clearly lost. And I had the gumption to say, because I looked at her and knew she was lost, "Can I help you?" And I said it in French, and she and I commenced a conversation in French. And I'm going to tell you, it was like an out-of-body experience for me, because I realized I'm standing here in France and I'm speaking French comfortably to a French woman who spoke back to me. And I tell you, I was on my way to run an errand and I was so excited. I turned around and ran home to my husband and said, you will not believe what just happened to me. It was wonderful. So Frédéric didn't know I was going to say any of these things,
No,
but
I'm very flattered. Thank you so much, Claire.
Thank you so much. What a glowing review. I think anybody learning a new
the pleasure is all mine.
Amazing. Yeah, I think anybody learning a new language, when you have that moment where you're speaking in the language with somebody else who's a fluent speaker, is such a life-changing moment. So I'm glad you were able to share that. We also have on the call today Mimi, who has taken some classes at the Institute more recently. Mimi.
Hi. I've attended the last 2 years and I'm going back in the fall. Both times I was in the advanced class, probably because like Clotel, I've kind of been studying French to some level my whole life. I'm Canadian. But I just, so I probably did very well in the written part. Or well enough anyway, but not as good on being able to regurgitate the words myself. So I did accomplish that. It is much more, you learn things that are much more useful for being in France or travel. It's not, you learn how people actually talk. I'm trying to, in terms of the description of the place, I'm trying to book my Airbnb right now. And from experience, it's never what it looks like online. But the Institute is what you just saw. Except maybe those sofas, which I really think should be replaced. They're really uncomfortable, Frédéric. But it was a very cozy room, and you only spend 45 minutes in there because it's a special session. 8.5 hours, really long time. They do their best to keep you moving because you do change classrooms, and you have 2 breaks plus a lunch to stretch your legs. Honestly, it still does take getting used to, but it's well worth the sacrifice. I'm constantly trying to make myself comfortable. I'm sitting cross-legged in the chairs, stuff like that, which is fine. Or you can stand up. But it is well worth it because the time invested really pays off. And in terms of why I went back again, I think like Clotel, it's kind of hard to separate the personal from the educational because you go there with an intention. I wanted to learn French more. I wanted to start traveling now that my kids are grown, but I'd never gone anywhere by myself. So it gave me a security to have something to do and be around people. But after that, it really gave me the confidence I needed, and I feel like I can travel on my own now anywhere. But also while I was there, it was just so wonderful. And I think people in Seattle can really appreciate this. Just being out of the States or having a break from everything. So I just felt at peace. I had a daughter studying there at the same time by coincidence. And she just said, wow, you look happy, which made me realize she doesn't see me happy, which is not a good thing. So yeah, I met a very good friend there and we both love walking. So in terms of the 15-minute distance, there's a lot of stairs. So you really have to How long it takes each individual will vary. I love the stairs because you don't have to go to the gym at all. And we would walk to Nice. We didn't take the bus or the train because we love walking. We would walk. I mean, there's several different routes, whether you want to go upstairs and over a mountain or along the coast. And yeah, it's right next door. And then from there, every weekend we would go places to visit, Antibes, Ventimiglia. The Institute has a couple of field trips that they organize. And Villefranche is a little off the beaten track. If you read Rick Steves, even, I think he says that it's not a place where, at least until this point anyway, where people habitually go. It's mostly the cruise ship traffic. And so I went in April 1 month and May 1 month. And so May, the traffic started the tourists started increasing, but it was really a few hours during the day when they would come off the ship to eat, and then they'd be gone again. And you're in school anyway, so. Yeah, so yeah, it was an incredible experience. I'm going again for 2 weeks because they've introduced another class de perfection, which I begged Frédéric to let me into, because I'm not sure I'm totally qualified. But I'm going to be sad when I don't have an excuse to go there anymore. So I'll make more classes, Frédéric.
Okay. Thank you, Nimi and Clatel. I will hire you both for being our marketing agents.
Absolutely. Such high reviews. I think that means a lot coming from them. We now have some time for question and answer.
And Linda, let's ask Linda to say a few words. Linda, would you like to say a few words about your experience, please?
Ottilia, you were reading my mind. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I love everything that was just said. It mirrored my own experience. I will add one more anecdote that I think will be meaningful to everybody. When I left the Institute, I went to Nantes to visit my daughter, who was teaching English there as an intern kind of assistant. And when I checked in my hotel, of course, I spoke French, right? And talked occasionally with the lady at the desk. And then one day she stopped me and she said, puis-je vous poser une question indiscrète? Can I ask you, a question? And I said, sure. And she said, where in the world did you learn your French? It's so good. And that made my whole trip. It made everything worthwhile. I was just so thrilled to be asked that question. And, it's thanks to the intensive work that we did at the Institute.
Thank you, Linda. Wow, I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah, I don't think I told you that story. I have a few others to share with you later, Frédéric.
Okay.
And I know we have another one of our students, Lily, here.
Lily.
I don't want to put you on the spot, Lily, but if you feel free to share anything from your own experience, and we'll keep your questions coming.
Bonjour, Lily.
Bonjour, Frédéric. Unlike Claytel and Nimi, I had just started learning French the year that I went to Villefranche, which is probably close to 10 years ago. So I had a very different level to start with. And I've done quite a few different programs elsewhere along the way in that period. And I would have to say that for oral production, Villefranche, l'Institut Français is the best. So that's why I'm participating today and planning to go back next year. And that intensive focus on oral production, oral practice, dining together, only speaking French is very, very effective. And you also meet interesting people from all over the world. I met a couple of gals. Oddly, in my class, there were two other women from Seattle. We had never met, and except in that class, I kept up with them for a while. But then a British person that I'm still in touch with, and the village is charming. It's quite close to it, and very easy to take the train and speak to people in French. And so I enjoyed it thoroughly, got a lot out of it. I think it was kind of hard for me at that time because I was, I think, advanced beginner two or what, and so having meaningful conversations, or maybe advanced beginner, I can't remember which. So having meaningful conversations all day long at that level could be challenging, and I'm sure that off hours there was non-French spoken, but good program. And I had a couple of questions for Frédéric. One is, if a partner wants to go and has no French background, do you think they would be able to take a beginning French class there, or they need to have a background to start?
Yeah, no. We have a total beginner class in each session. Well, of course, now, as a personal recommendation, I would, depending on the age group perhaps, but I would really highly suggest that you get familiar a little bit with, one or two basic verbs, être and avoir, and listen to a few podcasts, basic podcasts, and at least to have an idea of the sounds and so on. But no special preparation is required, and we have a funny group of total beginners this time in September for this session. And I think the youngest is 60-year-old, and it goes up to 80. So it was a challenge really for the teacher, but they're making their way, they are progressing, they are enjoying themselves. You see them happy, smiling. Every day you meet them in the corridor, in the school corridors or in the garden, or you have lunch with them, because I have lunch with the students at times, and they smiling, they are enjoying themselves, they know their level. They know they are beginners, but you have to begin at some point. And I think it's a good way to start off. And because you're starting off with the oral language, the spoken language, and not with perhaps things you read and sort of memorize in your head the wrong way, with the wrong pronunciations and so on. So, no.
And I did think that when I attended, the maximum was 12, which I thought was too large. And now that you reduced it to 10, I think other sections, not everyone was in a group with 12. Some had 7 or 8. And so I think having a maximum of 10 is good. And also to not to discourage taking a lot of written notes and just focus on the oral is a very good technique.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised about the 12 because
well, this is 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, I was there. I've been there 37 years. Sometimes we have no choice, to have 11 students. Sometimes we have no choice, but it's really rarely happening, because we don't want to place someone in the wrong level based on the fact that there's a maximum of 10. If need be, we go to 11, and students usually understand that perfectly well, so that the level really corresponds to the level of the student. So, but in my experience, never 12 never happened. So.
Frédéric, there's a very interesting question in the chat, and I'm sure many have the same question. How would you distinguish the Institut de Français program from other nearby programs? And I'm thinking about the fact that Linda just, in the chat, in the same chat, suggested that you could start with classes at the Alliance Française and then complement your learning with such a unique experience that the l'Institut de Français can offer.
Yeah, and I think, and this is why we have such a good partnership with the Alliance Française in Seattle, but also other Alliance Française, and that we recommend all the time. Whenever asked, we tell our students when you go back, because this is the question we get systematically, what can I do once I return home? We tell them, go to an Alliance Française. Because I think we are not competitors. We are just is that a word?
Yeah.
Complémentaire.
Yeah.
It means very often you go to the Alliance Française. I don't know if you have, short sessions, crash courses, but very often, you go to the Alliance Française or to a conversation class or to whatever class you want to take. You go there once, twice a week. So it's called an extensive program. And you're in the States. You're in whenever you're finished with the course, you go back home, you go back to your language, you go back to your life, you'll go back to your work. This is something that actually we work with a few, corporate businesses and good human resource directors tell us, we prefer to send you a student for 2, 3, 4 weeks because whenever we organize classes in Paris, in Lyon, in Marseille, indoor, it's 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. And then, the minute you walk out, you're back to work, you're back to your normal life. Here at the school, you make it's a process. You decide to attend, you organize your trip. It's 4 weeks, and you are in complete isolation. Actually, we have news session in the morning that I usually present, and we tell them, don't forget the world. I mean, there are, wars going on, and because you end up in a sort of microcosm, and you forget about the world. And this is, I think, one of the characteristic of the Institut de Français. You're in a world of itself, and the emphasis is on spoken French, so that makes us a little different.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Frédéric. There's also a question in the chat more on the logistics side of things. So how far in advance of wanting to attend, should I plan the travel, take the assessment test, sign up, etc.?
Okay. Okay, we are fully booked now until the end of November. So just to give you an idea, but I think it's always worth to even try on a last minute basis because we have cancellation. It's not like it never moves. We have cancellation, we have a cancellation policy, it's on, and et cetera, et cetera. So it keeps changing. But I think in terms of accommodation, we are a school. We're not a real estate agency, so we don't have hundreds of apartments in each category. We have 4 to 5 different categories, and we cannot have many apartments in each category. So if you want to have a choice in the category of accommodation you wish, then the earlier the better, really. And I would say 6 months ahead of time.
How far in advance? Go ahead.
Yeah, on the logistics side, and I know probably some of our students are asking themselves this question: how Is there like a level assessment process that they can take before they register?
We
Or
have a
how do you assess their level?
we have a pre-online test,
Mhm.
and that's actually more for me to organize my classes in advance. You know the problem with CVI, yes?
Mhm.
Um, but then there's a very complete test on the first day, which is very, very complete and assesses lots of skills, the comprehension, written, oral, expression, written, oral, and so on. So we have a very good idea of the student's profile as of the first morning.
Mhm.
And then they go to class. They start immediately.
Mhm.
And there's another, for those students who stay for 4 weeks, there's another test, which is actually the same test as the entrance test. And that's taken on the last day. And if students want to see their results, of course, they're welcome, and we show them graphically their progress.
Love that. There's also a question, which I think is very realistic as a language learner. You know, there's a concern of attending a program and developing strong skills, but then returning home to an English-speaking country or life. How much can a student retain, and is it possible or realistic to maintain what that student has learned? This might be a question also for the folks who have attended. Bethel, I don't know if you have any
Yeah,
opinions on it.
I make a real effort. I watch Netflix or French on TV. At first I used to watch it with the subtitles. Now I'm trying with French subtitles. Or if I watch it a second time, if it's good enough, no subtitles. And it gets easier every time. So you do have to make an effort. Um, I'm I I'm not at the point where I can read a novel. That's my dream. I feel like that is the best way. I have another friend who I met at the Institute. He just reads, and he has made incredible progress, but he's comfortable with not looking up words, and I'm not. And I think that's the secret. So yeah, you do have, I mean, I studied in Paris in my 20s for a year. And then I didn't use it. So I kind of had to start, it came quickly, but I kind of had to start back at level A. So A2, I think it was. So yes, you have to make an effort.
And, on that point, I would like to say that it really depends on you. Because, of course, there's a lot of information. It's a lot, it's intense. But well, if you quit and don't practice at all for 6 months, a year, well, you might just go one step back and lose the benefits of the full immersion. It's the idea. This is why I mentioned the fact that we are not competitors with the Alliance Française, because whenever they do a program with us, we recommend our students to go to an Alliance Française wherever they are and take classes and do as much as they can. Of course, we understand that modern life is difficult. You're busy, you work, and so on. But nowadays you can watch movies. You can watch movies with French subtitles, which is good. French movies with French subtitles. Um, the Kindle is also a great asset for those who like to read, but are a little bit put off by the vocabulary and so on. I discovered that myself because I read English or German. German is my mother tongue. Whenever you have a Kindle, you just press on the word and you have the immediate translation. So, it's not as off-putting as it used to be, when you had a novel and a huge dictionary on your bedside so, it really depends on you. It really depends on you if you want to, capitalize on what you've learned. There's no way we can help you with that.
Just to add to what you said, Frédéric, the Alliance is also offering a community. So we don't only offer classes, but we also have many cultural events where you can practice French outside the classroom, like happy hours in French, conversation groups, art shows in French. So follow our events and you'll find something for you every week. Also, our classes, if we have book clubs, Nimi mentioned that she would like to read in French. We do offer book clubs where you can read a book together and talk about it. And even some of these classes are online, but sometimes the teachers, organizes a dinner out with the students. So there is this sense of friendship, which I valued so much at the l'Institut de Français, and I think the Alliance Française, the Seattle especially, is doing that very well as well.
Cine Salon is excellent also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have to add something to the conversation this morning. In 1991, I went to l'Université de Nice in the summer to take a French course. I was a beginner. And then I discovered, I found out about l'Institut de Français. And then I decided I have to go there. So I was there in, I think, 1992 for 2 weeks. And I was a beginner student. And I knew the grammar and all of that, but I have never been able to speak the language. So it was thanks to the l'Institut de Français that I was able to, start saying things in French and feeling more comfortable. And I remember back then that we were not allowed to say a word in another language. And actually, you pay a fine. Do they still do that?
Well, we're a little more flexible on that, but
okay. Because I remember.
I'm patrolling in the corridors very often, and because I tell students on the first day, please play the game. This is in your own interests. This is for your own good. Whenever I see students hiding behind trees to speak English,
No.
really gets on my nerves.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I tell them, you're adults, you're grown-ups.
Okay.
It's an investment, it has a price. The course is about 5,800 euros for 4 weeks plus accommodation. So, this is an investment really in time, in money, in a commitment. So, you have to play the game.
Mm-hmm. So it was a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Are there any questions? I think there are a few questions in the chat, Frédéric, if you want to go through them.
Yes, I think I saw answers to many of them directly in the chat. One question that might not have been answered is, what are the months when diplomats study at the Institute?
Usually May to October. For our next session, starting next week, we have the Norwegian community. We had an ambassador this month. He was assigned very abruptly to a Francophone country in Africa, and he was a complete beginner. So we needed to, train him. And then we have a partnership with the Académie diplomatique of Oslo, and they send us 5 to 7 new diplomats. They just finished their training in diplomacy, and they are sort of destined, or they are going to be assigned to Francophone countries. So they come to us. We have this special partnership. We have 3 Japanese diplomats at the moment. We had 2 persons from state in August. And, the professional students, it gets more professional, I would say, May to October included. It gets a little more professional.
Great. I think the other questions that have been answered already we could run through out loud, but I also want to be respectful of everyone's time. We have already run over time. So if anybody has to go, you're more than welcome. But otherwise, Frédéric, I think you answered these already in the chat, but if you could just verbally explain what's a reasonable expectation for language improvement over 4 weeks? For example, do most students advance 1 level or 2 levels?
I would say, our goal is perhaps when you are in the lower levels, 2 levels, jump 1. But it depends on each and every one. It's difficult question to answer. We believe that all the ingredients are present in our program to make the most out of the 4 weeks. So we believe that there are the materials, there are the activities, extracurricular activities, classroom, and so on. So it's difficult because we have 8 different levels. So the progress expected from a beginner is completely different than the progress expected from an advanced student. But, say an intermediate student, my goal is that he or she jumps 1 or 2 levels, sometimes 3. Bright students.
Absolutely. Students get in what they've put in, get out what they put into it. So that makes a lot of sense that there's variation. Another question is, it looks like oh, go ahead.
Some people who need to work in the evening for the work. Well, of course, yes, it happens a lot. With the technologies nowadays, it's easy, but of course, I consider this as an interruption of the immersion, because but if you for instance, the World Bank people, they need to work. They need to work 3-4 hours every night. So that's a lot, but
absolutely. Speaking of working professionals, I've seen this question a couple of times. It can be kind of difficult to take off 4 weeks from your typical life. And I know you also offer 2-week and 3-week options that might be more easy for folks to attend. Is the cost the same if that's the time that they stay?
no, it's
3 versus 4
proportional.
weeks.
4 weeks is 5,800, 2 weeks is 2,900, and 3 weeks is you do the math. It's all proportional. And I think, I interviewed the 2-week students as I always do 1 week ago when they left. If at all possible, contemplate the idea of 3 weeks if you are short of time, because this is really after 2 weeks that you sort of start to take off.
Yes.
Then you have to leave. So I would highly recommend a minimum of 3 weeks, if at all possible, of course.
Great. And since you shared a bit about the cost for the classes, are you also able to share approximately what the accommodation and housing costs are?
Not so much, but from what I remember, it starts at 1,200 or 300 up to 3,300, 3,500. We have these categories of regular apartments or higher standard apartments. Higher standard means typically a view of the bay, and better equipment, et cetera, et cetera. Nimi, did you stay in one of our apartments?
Yes. The first time I stayed in the lowest cost option. So it's basically 1 room, although it still included a wash. I think they all include a washer dryer. Or a washer, I should say. In France, you often air dry your clothes. And then, you know, honestly, because I can afford it, the next time I decided I wanted more room, have a separate sitting area. So I went up. I think I went to the highest level the next time. But the cheapest option, I think, is cheaper than anything you'll get on Airbnb. And it's comforting to know that correct me if I'm wrong, Frédéric, but then the Institute's responsible for
No, no, it's comforting. You know, you
yeah.
have there's a dedicated person for the apartments, and you know, whenever.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard horror stories on Airbnb, but that said, I've also known a lot of people who have had great Airbnbs, and I am now, because I'm only there for 2 weeks, booking an Airbnb.
Okay.
Okay. So I think our time is up. I'm very grateful for everyone for such engaging discussions, and of course to Frédéric for taking time on a Saturday night evening to share about this wonderful program. I would if you have other questions, we will keep on answering by email. Please email us with any questions. Before we wrap up, I would like Serena to mention a few of our upcoming events if you want to continue to practice your French in the community here in Seattle. Thank you again, Frédéric. Merci infiniment.
Merci beaucoup à tous et bonne journée à vous.
Merci.
Et à vous
Thank you
aussi.
so much. Just quickly, we do have a back to school community picnic this afternoon if you want to come and meet our French speaking community right here in Seattle with over 90 people signed up to celebrate la rentrée. That's going to be 3 to 5 p.m. today at the park behind the Alliance Française. We also have an upcoming Salon des Arts, French culture conversation community happening next Saturday. An opportunity to meet other Francophone people in Seattle, share something that you love within Francophone cultures, enjoy some wine and food with good company. And then finally, I wanted to invite everybody to our Soirée Belle Époque. This is our annual gala at the Rainier Club. We will be celebrating Joie de Vivre together with food, music, and a live dance performance that will celebrate the Belle Époque the best way possible. So if you are able to join us for any of these, we invite you to take a look at our website and RSVP there. We also have a number of cultural events coming up that we will be sharing in the near future, especially one as a partnership with Seattle Art Museum and an upcoming exhibit featuring French Impressionist artists. So keep your eyes open for that. You'll get all the information in our newsletter and on our site. And I hope to see some of you all in person this afternoon at our picnic.
Ok, bon, au revoir à tout le monde et merci Nimi, Catel et Lee aussi. Merci Lily, pardon.
Merci à tous.
Merci tout le monde. Au revoir.
Au revoir
Merci
Catel.
beaucoup.
Au revoir.
À bientôt.
À
À
bientôt.
À bientôt,
bientôt.
j'espère.
À bientôt, bientôt. Merci, au revoir. Au revoir Ottilia.
Merci Frédéric. Au revoir. À la prochaine,
Au
j'espère.
revoir, merci.
Au revoir.